Sorry for letting my family kick me out before a lawyer revealed I own the house? My name is Maya Peterson, and if I am telling you this, it is because I still remember that feeling perfectly. The damp grass under my sneakers, the sun beating down on the back of my neck, and my belongings tossed out like they were garbage. There were black trash bags, unsealed boxes, and clothes spilling out. The front door was shut, and I could hear laughter from inside. It was the day after my dad's funeral. I knocked once, then twice. My mom's voice came through the door, flat and rehearsed. Go away, Maya. This house is ours now. We changed the locks. You do not live here anymore. Behind her, I heard the snickering of Cody, my sister's boyfriend, acting like they were watching a sitcom. I didn't scream, I didn't plead, and I didn't make a scene. I just smiled. I bent down, started carrying my bags to my car, and drove away. I did not want to call the police or start a fight that day. I had just buried my father. I just wanted to breathe, because what they did not know was that the house had not belonged to my dad for 16 months. That house was mine. But to understand why I was so calm, with my heart shattered into a million pieces, I have to go much further back. Because my story with that family did not start at the funeral. It started when I was 6 years old. It was a normal morning. There was school, a packed lunch, and the usual rush. My dad went to his construction job and I went to first grade. When I came home, my mom was gone. She had taken her clothes, her shoes, her things, and left a note. It was not a heartfelt letter or an explanation, just something cold and brief stating that she could not handle family life and needed to leave. My dad was devastated. He filed for divorce almost immediately, and my mom never even showed up to contest it, as if my dad and I were a chapter she could just rip out of her life story. For 3 years it was just my dad and me, and despite the pain, they were peaceful years. He tried his best. He would make me pancakes before he left for work, drive me to soccer practice, and sit with me while I did my homework, even when he was exhausted. We had our routines, our inside jokes, and that kind of comfortable silence that only exists when you feel truly safe. With the innocence of a child, I thought that maybe we were better off without her. Then I turned 9 and one day my mom came back. She showed up at our door crying, her makeup streaked down her face, holding a little girl with bright blonde curls and huge eyes. The girl could not have been more than 2 or 3 years old. She just looked lost. My mom fell to her knees in front of my dad right there in the living room. I made a mistake. Please forgive me. I want to fix this. I want to come back. I want us to be a family. And then she dropped the bombshell. The little girl, she said, was my dad's daughter. She claimed she was already pregnant when she left but did not know it, that she had made a mess of things and was now ready to come home. My dad froze. He demanded a DNA test, and from the top of the stairs, I heard his voice tremble as he said he would not accept anything without proof. When the results came back, the reality hit all of us. Yes, the girl was his daughter. My sister's name was Haley Peterson. I should say that I understood, that I was mature, that I was happy about it. The truth is, I just felt scared. I had already seen what abandonment could do to a home, and now the person who had caused it was walking back in with another child in her arms, asking for a second chance. My dad forgave her quickly, far too quickly. They remarried in a small ceremony at the local courthouse with no party and no celebration. I was the only child there. Haley was so little she had no idea what was happening. I kept telling myself that everything would go back to the way it was before, only now I would have a little sister. I was wrong. From the moment my mom returned, I was no longer the center of our home. It was not a sudden shift or a single cruel remark. It was 1,000 tiny things that piled up over time. Everything became about Haley. It was about Haley's first words, Haley's new dresses, Haley's school pictures, Haley's funny stories, Haley's tantrums, Haley's birthday parties, and Haley's problems. I would try to talk about my day at school, and my mom would interrupt me without even realizing it. Oh honey, that is great. Hey, you will not believe what Haley did today. My dad drifted away with them too, not because he was a bad person but because he was happy. He loved playing with Haley, buying her toys, carrying her on his shoulders, and making up silly songs for her. And suddenly I was the one on the outside looking in. I tried to find my place. I genuinely offered to help take care of Haley. I would join them when they were talking in the living room. I would suggest we all go out for ice cream. I would recommend movies for family night, anything. My mom always had an excuse. Haley is too young for that movie. There is not enough room in the car. Haley gets fussy at night. You should probably just stay here. I stayed. Alone. By middle school, I felt like a ghost in my own house. There were family dinners they forgot to tell me about. I would come out of my room to find them clearing the dinner plates. They planned weekend trips and forgot to include me. I would find out from a stray comment, a suitcase in the hallway, or laughter from the kitchen. When I graduated from high school with honors, they came to the ceremony, but they left before it was over because Haley had a travel soccer game. I watched them walk out of the auditorium while I was still on the stage with my diploma in my hand, and I finally understood my place in that family. When the opportunity to go to college a few hours away presented itself, I did not hesitate. I earned a full academic scholarship to Penn State to study finance. I threw myself into my studies. I did internships, I networked, and I found a way to enter the professional world without asking anyone for anything. The day I left for school, I packed my entire life into 2 suitcases and felt like I could breathe for the first time in years. I promised myself I would build something of my own, something no one could ever take away from me. After I graduated, I thought I could move back home for a little while until I found a job, saved up for my own apartment, and got on my feet. I was their daughter too, or so I thought. I arrived with my degree, my suitcases, and an awkward smile. My dad did not even let me come inside to discuss it. You can stay for 15 days. 15. He said it like I was a stranger asking for a room. Haley needs her space. She is 16 now. She needs her privacy. My mom stood behind him, nodding as if it were the most reasonable thing in the world. You are an adult now, Maya. It is time for you to make your own life. I did not have a job yet, I did not have enough savings, and I had no backup plan, but I learned to swallow my pride. I went to my friend Jessica's house. She let me stay in her guest room, just like she did when I was a teenager and needed to escape to feel less alone. I found a job at an accounting firm. I rented a tiny studio apartment, the kind where the kitchen and living room are the same space and the closet feels like an afterthought. And there, surrounded by bills, long commutes, and exhaustion, I made a decision. That was it. If they did not want me in their lives, I was not going to keep begging for scraps of affection. When this story truly began, I was 32 years old and had gone almost 10 years without speaking to them. It had been 10 years of no phone calls, no visits, no happy birthdays, no text messages, nothing. And in that time, I did exactly what they told me to do. I built my own life. I succeeded on my own terms, I grew, and I became very good at what I do. I got promoted, I earned the respect of colleagues who valued my work, and I eventually became the director of finance at a major firm, Sterling and Pierce Financial, with an office in a skyscraper in Center City, Philadelphia. I had a comfortable life, a good salary, and stability. Everything I lacked as a child, I built for myself as an adult. That is why, on the day my assistant knocked on my office door, I was completely unprepared. Maya, there is a gentleman downstairs. He says he is your father. My hand froze over the spreadsheets on my desk. I felt a pit open in my stomach. Tell him I will be right down, I said, my voice steady, but inside I was shaking. I went down to the lobby and there he was. My dad had always been a big, strong man, the kind who filled a room just by walking into it. He had worked in construction for decades. He had calloused hands and broad shoulders. That man was gone. In his place stood someone thin and pale, his skin sallow. His eyes were tired, but they lit up when he saw me. Hello, Maya. I took a deep breath. Hello. What is wrong? He looked down at the floor, as if he did not know where to begin. Can we talk? Maybe get a coffee. We went to a cafe nearby. It was the middle of the day, and the city traffic was loud, so we walked the few blocks in near silence. We ordered and sat at a quiet table in the back. He kept nervously turning his coffee cup in his hands. Finally, he said it. I have cancer. The word hung in the air between us. Pancreatic. The doctors say if things go well, I have 2 or 3 years left. I sat in silence. 10 years of nothing and then this. I will not lie, my chest burned with a desire to confront him about everything. I wanted to tell him that he had abandoned me too, even while I was still living under his roof. But he was also my dad, the man who taught me how to ride a bike, who checked my closet for monsters, and who made me breakfast when it was just the two of us. I am sorry, I said, and I meant it. What do you need? He shook his head. There is not much to be done with treatments, but there is something else. He shifted in his seat and lowered his voice. He was talking about the house, my childhood home, the two-story colonial with the backyard in that quiet suburb. I am behind on the mortgage. I frowned. How? When your mother left the first time I bought the house. It was a fresh start, but I never paid it off. With all the expenses, the medical bills, and not being able to work as much, I started falling behind. He put his head in his hands. The bank is threatening foreclosure. If I do not get current on the payments, they are going to auction it off. I stared at him. And what do you want me to do? He swallowed hard. I want you to buy it from me. I froze. I want you to pay off what I owe, and the house will be in your name. With a new deed, everything completely legal. That way it stays in the family, and your mom and Haley do not end up on the street. The man who had kicked me out because his favorite daughter needed more space was now asking me to save the house for them. Are you serious? I know how it sounds. His voice cracked. I know I do not have the right to ask you for anything, but I am desperate, Maya. I cannot leave her without a home. I sat there quietly. My first instinct was to get up and walk away, but my mind started running the numbers cold and clear. I had been looking to buy a house for months, and nothing felt right. Everything was overpriced, too far from the city, or had issues I did not want to deal with. And that house was in a good neighborhood. It had appreciated in value significantly. How much do you owe? He told me the amount. A little over $150,000. It was a lot of money, yes, but it was less than I expected and far less than the house was actually worth. It would be a real sale, he said. With an attorney, a new deed, everything by the book. I leaned back in my chair. So let me get this straight. You want me to buy the house I was kicked out of, so they can continue to live there like nothing ever happened? He looked down. Yes. I thought about it. I was not doing it for them, but for me. I was doing it for that house that, despite everything, I had always loved. That same afternoon, I talked to my lawyer. The next day, I called my dad and told him yes. Fine, I will buy it. My dad looked up as if he had not heard me correctly. Really? Really? I stood up. Get my lawyer whatever he needs. He will need the loan details, bank information, and everything else. I will handle the paperwork. We shook hands right there in that coffee shop. It was the strangest deal of my life. 2 months later it was done. I was the legal owner of the house, with a deed recorded with the county, everything official. My dad used the money to pay off the mortgage. He had a little left over for his expenses, and my mom and Haley never found out. To them, my dad had simply fixed his financial problem. He told them he had worked out a deal with the bank to restructure the debt, and that he did not want to talk about it. They did not ask any more questions. They were just happy the house was secure. They kept on living as if the world owed them something. Couple of months later, my dad called me. Would you come over for dinner on Sunday? I want to have a family meal. I had not set foot in that house since I was kicked out at 22. I do not know if that is a good idea. Please. I want to see you all together. My 2 daughters. Curiosity got the better of me. And so did the strange secret truth. That house was mine. That Sunday I arrived and stood on the sidewalk for 5 minutes, just breathing, before I walked up and knocked. Haley opened the door, and I barely recognized her. She was not a girl anymore. She was a woman in her early 20s, tall and polished, with perfectly styled blonde hair. She was wearing a blouse that was obviously expensive. She looked me up and down without hiding her disdain. Oh, you came. Her voice dripped with attitude. From the kitchen, my dad yelled. Haley, be nice. The house was the same. It had the same furniture, the same family photos on the wall, and the same hideous lamp in the living room that my mom defended like it was a priceless antique. Haley announced my arrival loudly, as if I were an unwanted guest. Maya is here. My mom, Susan, came out of the kitchen, wiping her hands on a dish towel. She looked older, yes, but still put together, with that same hard expression, as if life owed her a certain level of respect. Maya, what a pleasure. Her tone said the opposite. My dad appeared and gave me a hug. He genuinely looked happy to see me. We sat down for dinner, and it was just as awkward as I had imagined. My dad tried to make conversation. My mom gave one-word answers. Haley did not even look in my direction. So what are you doing for work now? My dad asked. I am the director of finance at Sterling & Pierce. He smiled. You were always good with numbers. Haley let out a small condescending laugh. Director of finance. Sounds incredibly boring. I glanced at her purse hanging on her chair. It was a designer brand that cost what many people make in a month. I had also noticed a new car in the driveway when I arrived, a Mercedes with temporary plates. I turned to her. And you, Haley, what have you been up to? Her face lit up. I just got back from Europe. I was there for 3 weeks. Paris, Rome, all of it. It was amazing. My dad looked down at his plate. Haley continued excitedly. I bought a ton of stuff in the car. And I am already looking at condos for myself in a nice area, with a doorman and a gym and everything. My mom looked at her as if she were witnessing a miracle. I ate in silence. After dinner, my dad walked me to my car. Thank you for coming, he said. It really means a lot. It was interesting, I replied. Will you come back next month? I turned and looked at the house. My house. Yes, Dad. I will come. And so it began. We had dinners once a month. It was always the same dynamic. My dad was happy to see me. My mom was cold and distant. Haley was showing off. One month it was a pair of ridiculously expensive shoes, the next a spa weekend, then a new watch. It was always things, always money. And I sat there, a guest in my own home, pretending I did not hold the deed. That went on for 4 months until one Tuesday my dad called me, and his voice scared me. Maya, can you come over? I'm having a bad day. A really bad day. I took time off work and drove straight there. I let myself in with my key. Yes, my key. I found him in bed, pale, his lips almost gray. Where are they? I asked. He could barely speak. Shopping. Always shopping. I sat on the edge of the bed. Have you eaten? He shook his head. I went down to the kitchen and made him some broth, something simple. I helped him sit up so he could take a few sips, and in that moment I understood. No one was taking care of him. Dad, when was the last time someone helped you take a shower? He tried to sound strong. I can manage. But we both knew he could not. When my mom and Haley returned loaded down with shopping bags, I could not hold back anymore. He has been in bed all day without eating anything. My mom shrugged. He said he was not hungry. He is sick. He is very sick. He needs help. Haley crossed her arms. We do help. How? She winced. We do not like doing the unpleasant stuff. You know, like bathing him, changing the sheets, that kind of thing. My blood boiled. He was our father. That night I started going over every day. After work I would drive straight to the house, help him bathe, change his clothes, make him dinner and do his laundry. These were the basic human things that his wife and his other daughter were not doing. A month later my dad took a turn for the worse. One afternoon as I was helping him into a clean pair of pajamas he said, Maya, would you stay here? I looked at him. What? Just for a while. I do not want to be alone anymore when they go out. And you are already here every day. I glanced at my old bedroom. My apartment lease was ending soon and deep down there was a strange sense of rightness in coming back. Okay, I will move in. My mom and Haley were tense from the first day. At dinner, Haley finally blurted out what was bothering her. Why does she have to live here? It is so weird having her around all the time. Someone has to take care of Dad, I said calmly. If you two want to do it, I will leave. They went silent. Suddenly it was not so easy to complain. I arranged with my job to work from home a few days a week so I could spend more time with my dad. And while I was caring for a man who was fading away, they continued to spend money on new furniture for Haley's room, new clothes for my mom, dinners out and shopping sprees, as if the money would never end. 2 months after I moved in, Haley brought a guy home. This is Cody, she announced at dinner. My boyfriend. Cody smiled like he owned the place. He wore a baseball cap backward, a tight t-shirt, and had that fake confidence that feels more like a performance than a personality. Later in the kitchen, Haley cornered me while I was washing dishes. "Cody is going to move in here," she said. "What?" "Yeah. And you should leave." I just looked at her. "And why would I do that?" She stepped closer, her eyes flashing with anger, her voice dropping to a low hiss. "Because this is not your house. When Dad dies, everything goes to Mom and me. I have already seen the will. This house, the money, everything is ours. So get used to the fact that you are not welcome here." I set the plate down in the sink. I calmly dried my hands. "I am not leaving, Haley." Her jaw clenched. "Dad is not going to last much longer," she said coldly. "And when he is gone, Cody and I are going to change everything, starting with kicking you out." I looked her straight in the eye and smiled without saying a word. I turned back to the sink and kept washing the dishes, because I already knew how that story was going to end. 3 months later, my dad passed away. I was with him. My mom and Haley had gone to the mall to buy new dresses for the funeral. That was their priority. They only cared about looking the part and maintaining the right image. When my dad took his last breath, I was holding his hand. I told him I forgave him, and I meant it. The funeral was a performance. My mom and Haley arrived in designer black dresses. They cried beautifully and accepted condolences as if they were the stars of the show. I stayed in the background talking to my dad's old friends and distant relatives, people who had actually loved him. When I got back to the house, I saw my things on the lawn. They were tossed in black trash bags, the front door was locked, and the lock was changed. My mom yelled from inside for me to leave, and I heard Cody laugh. I drove to Jessica's house. She opened the door without asking any questions and just pulled me into a hug. "I am so sorry," she said. "And I am even more sorry that your family is so ungrateful." I took a deep breath. "Thank you, but do not worry. They are in for a surprise." 2 days later, my phone rang. It was the attorney's office. "Ms. Maya Peterson?" "Yes. This is the office of Attorney Miller. We need you to come in this Friday at 2 in the afternoon. It is regarding the estate of Mr. David Peterson." On Friday, I arrived in my best business suit, my hair done, feeling the kind of calm you earn after years of swallowing your pain. My mom, Haley, and Cody were already there, sitting in the conference room. They were smiling and visibly excited. Cody sat in the back like a silent partner. Attorney Miller opened a folder. "We will begin." He read through the formalities such as identities and legal notices, and then he started. "To Mrs. Susan Peterson in her capacity as spouse, I bequeath 50% of all available funds in checking and savings accounts." My mom smiled and squeezed Haley's hand. "To Ms. Haley Peterson, I bequeath the remaining 50% of all funds, as well as all movable property contained within the residence. This includes all furniture, appliances, and personal effects." Haley was practically bouncing in her seat. The attorney continued. "To Ms. Maya Peterson, I leave the personal library of Mr. David Peterson and his entire book collection." Haley let out a little scoff, then asked the question she had been holding back. "And the house?" The attorney looked up from his papers. "The property does not appear as part of the estate." My mom's smile vanished. "What do you mean it does not?" she said, her voice rising. "Of course it does. That house belonged to my husband." The attorney checked his documents. According to the county's public property records, the real estate was not in Mr. Peterson's name at the time of his passing. The records show it was previously alienated. The room went silent. Haley was frozen. "That is impossible," my mom said. "There must be a mistake." I stood up slowly. "There is no mistake." All three of them turned to look at me. I opened my briefcase and took out a certified copy of the deed. "The house is mine. I bought it from my dad 16 months ago." Haley's face went white. "What?" The attorney took the document, reviewed it calmly, and nodded. "This deed is duly registered. The property was transferred to the name of Ms. Maya Peterson." My mom snatched the papers, her hands trembling. She read them as if the words were burning her. "This cannot be," she said, her voice high and strained. "This is fraud. You tricked him." "No one tricked anyone," I said evenly. "Dad was behind on the mortgage. The bank was about to foreclose. He needed help and I helped him. It was a legal sale, handled by an attorney." Haley shot up from her chair, pointing at me. You knew the house was supposed to be for us. I looked at her with a calmness that I knew would infuriate her. You assumed that. But we live there, she yelled. We spent money on that house. It is our home. You spent the money my dad got from selling it to me, I replied. The money that, by the way, he gave you with no obligation. My mom's lips were pressed into a thin white line. Cody was already looking toward the door. Haley grabbed his arm. Do something, she pleaded. She cannot just rob us. I raised an eyebrow. I did not rob you of anything. And just so we are clear, you have 14 days to vacate the premises. My mom's mouth fell open. 14 days? We cannot find a place to live in 14 days. You should have thought of that before you threw my things out on the lawn the day after the funeral. I picked up my briefcase. My mom stood up desperately. Maya, wait. We can work this out. You can live there too. We will share. We are family. I thought, it is amazing how quickly they want to share once they find out it is mine. I walked out without another word. For the next 2 weeks my phone rang constantly. My mom was crying and Haley was yelling. Cody even tried to talk to me, saying Haley was fragile. I ignored almost all of it. I only answered the night before the deadline expired. It was my mom, her voice broken. Maya, please, we have nowhere to go. I took a calm breath. You still have the money from the bank accounts. Get an apartment. Make a plan. It is mostly gone, she whispered. Then that is your problem. And I hung up. 2 weeks later I went to the house with my key. A moving truck was parked in the driveway, and movers were carrying out boxes. But they were not just taking clothes, they were taking everything. When I walked inside, the house was empty. They had taken the furniture, the appliances, and the light fixtures. They left bare bulbs hanging from the ceiling and scuff marks on the walls. Only one thing remained untouched. It was my dad's library. His books were arranged exactly as he had left them. Haley saw me from the doorway, her eyes filled with tears. This is all your fault, she said. We are going to end up in some horrible apartment because of you. I looked at her, not with hatred, but not with sympathy either. You are not ending up there because of me. You are ending up there because you spent money like it would never run out. They got in their car and drove away. I stood in the middle of the empty living room and smiled. Yes, they had taken everything they could, but I could replace it. I had a job, I had savings, and I had peace. They had pride and empty bank accounts. Over time I heard what happened. My mom had to go back to work full-time after years of not having a job. Haley sold the Mercedes and got a job in retail. And Cody, as soon as he realized there was no more easy money, disappeared from their lives. 6 months later they showed up at my front door. My house. My mom was wearing simple clothes, without her usual polished look. Haley looked tired. We want to make peace, my mom said in a measured tone. We are family. We should be together. They did not offer to fix anything. They did not say they would pay me back for what they took. They just wanted back inside. I looked at them from my doorway. I did not feel satisfaction or guilt. I just felt clarity. No, thank you, I said. I have been living in this house for 2 years now. I have remodeled it little by little. I updated the kitchen, fixed up the bathrooms, and made the spaces my own. I left my dad's study just the way it was, with his books and that comforting smell of old paper. Sometimes I sit in there, open one of his books, and think about how strange life is. The house where I never felt welcome is now my sanctuary. The family that threw me away like I was nothing is now living with the consequences of their own choices. Do I feel bad? No. I did not do to them what they did to me. I took care of my dad when he needed it most. I was there when he faded away. I gave him dignity when they treated him like a burden. They chose to spend, to show off, and to wait for an inheritance they thought they were owed. I chose to build. And every night, I sleep peacefully in my house with the deed in my name. If that makes me the villain in their story, so be it. I have already lived my life being invisible, and I never intend to go back. Comment. Hello everyone, and thank you for spending time with me today. Sometimes the hardest part of healing is accepting that we cannot change how others treat us, but we have complete control over how we respond. True strength is found in walking away from toxic environments and building a life where you are valued. Choosing kindness does not mean letting people walk all over you. Setting firm boundaries is actually an act of deep self-love. We all face moments where we must decide whether to hold on to bitterness or to focus on our own growth. Choosing peace often requires letting go of the need for an apology that might never come. I hope today's video encourages you to protect your energy and invest in your own happiness. Please share your thoughts in the comments below because your experiences might just inspire someone else. If you liked it, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.